And so we get to the hospital and I sit down in the lobby and I was like, hey, if they need me to walk back, you're going to have to ask them to get me a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I cannot walk.
Wow.
Like my body cannot function anymore. So they give me a wheelchair. They wheel me to the bed. I'm like 6'4" and like 260, 270 pounds. At the time I was like 240 because I hadn't been eating and I had lost a ton of weight because I was so sick. Well, apparently I wasn't like fully asleep. They kept asking me like cognitive questions like, do you know what year it is? Do you know who the president was? My wife said I was getting frustrated because they wouldn't help me answer the questions. I'm like, come on guys, help me out. And they're like, we're not allowed to help you answer these questions. And so they're trying to run tests. They cannot figure anything out. And they decide, hey, we're going to send him back for a CT. When they send me back for my full body CT, they find this right here. Where is it at? Right here in my brain. So it's not technically considered a tumor because of what it was, but there was bacteria. Here's my fun.
Oh my gosh. Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Expect Miracles podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by uccnearme.com. Find an upper cervical chiropractor near you on uccnearme.com. Today we have a first-timer guest on the podcast. I'm so excited to have him on. Dr. Brandon Brown, the migraine doc out of the Specific Chiropractor Centers of Richardson, Texas. Phenomenal upper cervical doctor, very passionate about what he does, and I'm so excited to have him on. And without further ado, please welcome Dr. Brandon Brown. Brandon, how are you today?
Dude, I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I mean, the last few podcasts I've been on, I'm like, I'm just going to let every single one of you guys go in a row. If I ever have to go do anything, I'm just going to let you guys come out and intro me so then I can feel like I get all pumped up. I don't have to say anything. You guys say nice things about me. And then I'm like, man, I'm ready to go. No, but I mean, we're recording this in the morning if anybody doesn't know. So it's like no better way to start your day than to hear somebody just say, you know, a few nice things about you.
Tires a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So Brandon, I'm excited to have you on. You got a very big following on social media at the Migraine Doc on TikTok, Instagram, and other platforms, and you're very passionate about what you do. And so my first question for you is, how did you land on upper cervical, and why are you so passionate about this work?
Ooh, that's a good one. The upper cervical stuff, I always tell people, like, I think I've seen videos where I've heard your story a little bit. Like, I know a lot of people have had their lives changed by this type of work, and that was what got them into it. I'm sort of almost the complete opposite. My dad is a full spine chiropractor. To back it up a little bit, because I think most of the time when I tell people, like, oh, my dad's also a chiropractor, then when we talk about this, it's like, oh, you must have had chiropractic your whole life. Well, I didn't meet my dad till I was 8 years old. Really? And then really we didn't connect. Like, I would go stay with him, but it's like, I'm sure I got to experience a little bit of what that was, but he was also learning at the time, you know, then started to get into coaching to then learn so they could help him to be more successful. Cause it's a field where you want to help and take care of people. And it's really the reason that typically gets you into it. But then you realize, you know, jack about running a business and you're like, oh, geez, there's so many other things that are involved in this. I don't know anything about marketing or running a business or structure or training. Mm-hmm. So when I really had that connection, I started living with my dad and my stepmom when I was about 18, 19 years old, lived with them, worked at my dad's clinic, and really, to keep a short story long, which is typically what I do, that was around the time I met my wife. We wanted to get married. I kind of had a lot of things that shifted to get me refocused on what I wanted to do. And I think I told this story on another podcast. I had 2 of my dad's patients just come up to me and they're like, hey, this is going to sound weird. It just feels like my whatever you want to call it. They're like, I feel like the Holy Spirit is calling me to tell you this. And they're like, you're going to do this type of work and you're going to impact a lot of people's lives. And I had 2 separate people without knowing each other, without knowing anything, just while I'm up at the front desk helping kind of orchestrate things, come up and tell me that. And I was like, okay, I think there's something here. So around the time me and my wife were dating, we wanted to get engaged, we wanted to get married, we were young. It's like, hey, let's show our parents that we know we're at least putting together a plan.
Right.
So I submitted to get accepted to Parker University down here in Dallas, Texas. I got conditionally accepted, which we were like, okay, there's a step. Ended up coming down here and started chiropractic school. But down here in Texas, it's like there's almost no upper cervical. My trimester didn't even have a teacher who taught upper cervical, so I didn't even get to have it as an elective
And you
whenever I
started
was
young.
in school.
You started young,
Yeah.
huh? Wow.
Yes. I was in school from 2012 to 2015. So yeah, for me, it was just one of those things. So to finally answer your question, basically for me, I had always seen all the cool BJ Palmer videos. He's doing these upper cervical adjustments. And I was like, dude, that just looks cool. We don't do any of that. I want to learn it. And for me, my plan was this is going to be another tool that's in my toolbox. When we do this, you need all the tools that you can get in order to be able to help people. We never know if it's a toe or a knee or what. Like at that time, I'm somewhat ignorant to I know the principles of chiropractic, fortunately. I think my dad was very much into that, so I had that benefit of going into school. But I was like, this is going to be another tool in my toolbox. So at the time, with the mentors and people that I knew in chiropractic, I was like, hey, if I wanted to learn upper cervical care, who should I learn from? Like, who should I talk to? And at that time, they told me Dr. Andy Roberts and Dr. Sean Dill, who did the Art of the Specific, TATS is what we call it. And so I reached out to those guys and was just kind of talking to Andy. If anybody knows Andy who's watching, he's no longer with us. We miss him so much. I mean, this is literally the guy I got a tattoo on my arm because of this dude and the impact that he's had in my life. And so I think it's my responsibility to continue on what he, through me, has worked to continue on, and a lot of people that he had an impact with. So I reached out to them and was talking to Andy and was like, hey, I want to do one of these. Well, at the time, you had to go like 4 or 5 weeks in a row to do each one of their sections to like a city that they were hosting it. It wasn't really, really efficient in order to be able to do their training. Mm-hmm. So if you know anything about me and why I got into upper cervical work, is I'm very much, I've always loved chess. I love strategy. I love efficiency. So I love systems and processes that work well and make sense. And so not to just take things away to take them away, but I really do focus on a less is more principle, not a more is more. Too much of anything is it. In anything that you do, when you're like, well, let's just add a bunch of stuff to it. It's like, no, it's the simplicity that allows it to go. And then potentially it can become complex if we need it to. But I always wanted that as a guiding principle for me. So I had reached out to them and, they're like, well, you got to do this. And I was like, hey, if I got a group of docs together, would you guys be willing to do like an intensive where we just do it like over a weekend? We do a couple days. And they were like, it's funny. We're talking to another student that's down in your area. Why don't you connect with him? And whenever you do that, if you guys can get enough people in a room, we'll come down there. Well, we ended up getting 50 students and doctors to sign up, which for them, they were like, heck yeah, we'll do that.
Definitely.
They shoved us in a room in a hotel that probably could barely hold that many people. We were shoved in this little tiny room in there. And I remember, it's Texas. It's super hot. This is like about beginning of summer. I just finished Tri-5 in school. So the school where I was at, we had 10 trimesters. I'm like halfway through. I really have a decent base of the knowledge of things I need to know. I had just finished up clinical neurology. So I'm sitting there and it's like, I have all this education in my brain, but I don't have a lot of application of how you would actually apply this into what it is that you do. So little did I know, I mean, the biggest regret that I have was not paying more attention. Like we had Roger Titone there,
wow,
who invented the Titron, which is the functional nervous system testing that we use. That dude was there, but him talking was like 30,000 feet over my head. I had no idea. This dude is incredibly smart. Yes. And I was like, I don't know what this dude is talking about. I just think this stuff is cool. But I remember listening to Sean and Andy, and they would kind of trade off and we would be doing drills. And I always say, like, I wasn't just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. I was just very intrigued. But my brain, based on how upper cervical works, the fact that you're only adjusting 2 bones in people's necks, you're going to take very specific x-rays, you're going to do scans on every patient. You're not going to adjust patients on every visit. And when they do get adjusted, you're going to rest them. And I was like, my dad was like high volume, seeing lots of people. Like you just kind of run people through, which no judgment of anyone. You run your clinic how you want to run your clinic. But I was like, I just had 2 diverse models that made no sense in my mind. but I loved everything about it. I left with a choke table and a speeder board that weekend. I did not have the 500, $600 that I spent on it as a student,
Right.
but I was like, I need this thing. I've got to be able to do these drills. Like I have to be able to work on this. And so fortunately at that time we had a great community online. We had a Facebook page. You could upload your videos. And so me and a couple of my buddies that went, we just started working on this. And so I always say I get the credit of being a part of one of the first TATS intensives. And then I was also a part of one of their first double intensive where they did a level 1 and a level 2. So when I went and did my level 2, I think it was in St. Louis, Dr. Shondell, who is still my coach now, and I have to give a shout out to him. If you are looking for someone who can help you go to the next level and give you guidance, like I am who I am and I am where I am because of him. There are absolutely skills that I have that have helped me, but he has guided me along the way. And I wouldn't be able to be here without his just like, hey, post shit on the internet. Who cares? They're going to get upset. You're going to ruffle some feathers. That's how you know you're making a difference.
Of course.
So I remember the level 2, the first section was business. And Sean got up and just basically like, hey, here's how this would function and run as a business. And I remember that day messaging Andy on Facebook Messenger that night. And I was like, dude, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. Like, this is what I want to do. And I think everyone expects, like, this isn't like a Disney story. It's not like I made that decision and then it was like everything was super easy. Mm-hmm. Mind you, my wife thought I had lost my mind. Mm-hmm. Everyone does the classic, what are you going to do when somebody comes in with low back pain? Like, what are you going to do for that? Like, and I'm like, well, I see plenty of patients that have low back pain, but that's not their biggest complaint. And also, there's other things that people can do. I actually think low back pain is a lot of we sit too much, we don't stretch well, we don't move well, we don't work well, like we don't do enough things to keep ourselves active. I've got zero issue with people who want to adjust low backs, but I just think it has less of an impact on how your body is going to function than when we talk about being as close to the source as possible where your brain is.
Right.
So for me, it was like, okay, my wife thinks I'm crazy. My parents think I'm crazy because it was like, hey, go to school, finish that, come back, and we'll open up a clinic. You come work with us. Like, we'll branch out, we'll do this. And all of a sudden, it's like, I don't know if I'm going to do that. Yeah. I think I'm going to completely, midway through what I'm doing in school, I think I'm just going to absolutely, completely change everything up. And there were circumstances that made that obviously one of the best decisions that I ever made. But it was really difficult at that time because you're talking about the person that is my backbone that has supported me in everything, who, by the way, struggled with migraines, and she was one of my first migraine patients. So to see the impact that upper cervical K can have, she's absolutely experienced that. But that doesn't mean that she's not like, what the heck are you doing? Like, you're taking this hard veer in a direction that's crazy. And people in class want to make fun of you. People think that's so silly. Oh my gosh, what are you going to do for this? What are you going to do for that? And it's, I can remember all of those things. But for me, especially like more recently for me, it's like I 1000% know that I'm doing exactly what I am on this earth to do. So depending on what your beliefs are, I believe that there's a God. So God and I had a conversation the other day in the shower. This is where I solve all the problems. I don't know if I have some connection to water or what, but when I'm in the shower, I could just like, it's just nothing else is going on. I'm focused on just relaxing. Mm-hmm. And so I just remember this was like earlier this year. And, I'm one of those people, it's like, I have to balance things of like, I'm very hungry for things to go in a certain direction and can be very lost on like what I should be grateful for and the people that I'm getting to work with and the impact that I'm getting to make. But I still feel like it wasn't where it needed to be. And so I remember I basically just prayed and I was like, God, here's the thing. Like, if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm not where I'm supposed to be, like if this is not what you want me to do, then I want you to take it away from me. I want you to make it almost impossible. I want you to close every door. I want you to just make it where make it as hard as possible so it is very clear to me that this is not what you want me to do. Mm-hmm. And I understand that most people would stop right there. And I said, but if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, I want you to bless it even more than what I can understand. I want it to go even further than what I could ever imagine. And I remember ever since then, I mean, it has been like a banshee crazy. the stuff through social media, the amount of people that I've traveled to the clinic, the people now, I've officially had somebody from outside of the United States travel all the way to the clinic in order to be able to get care. The people that I get to connect with, people like you through UCC, like I needed that a long time ago when I started posting on TikTok, and it's like it is absolutely necessary so that when people find someone like us but can't travel, that they can hopefully find a doctor near them that knows what the heck they're doing and can help them, because most people just do not have access to this type of care. So for me, it was just, okay, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to sort of fall into it backwards by accident, realize that instead of this being a tool in my toolbox, it's the only tool that I'm going to have in my toolbox, and I'm going to essentially commit to it for the rest of my life, or the rest of however long I'm going to be blessed with being able to be in here in this clinic, which is another fun story that we could get into as well, because I had some crazy stuff about almost 2 years ago on Halloween where I had to have an emergency brain surgery a few years ago.
You did?
So yeah.
Whoa, what happened there?
So I've had a history of bad ear infections most of my life growing up. Part of why I wish I would have probably had more experience with chiropractic growing up. It happens with a lot of kids. Kids are rough on their bodies. Birth process can be rough. I know everyone's like, kids don't have neck and back pain. I'm like, well, I've taken care of kids as young as like 4 years old with migraine. So, and they're starting to think that colic might be migraine in babies. There's a lot of research that's starting to back this up. So, and adjustments on a kid is not like what you're thinking when you see these like crazy things on the internet. Even the type of work that we do, it is not what you're expecting. I have patients do that all the time, and it's like, are you going to do this? And I'm like, all those videos that you've seen on the internet, I'm not going to do anything like that at all whatsoever. So I had a couple years ago a bad ear infection that started to come on, that I'm usually just like, hey, give my body some time, take care of myself, rest it up, let it, like, the body will figure it out. The body will heal itself. It's going to be fine. And it just kind of kept progressing and getting worse. Looking back, one of the things that I realized was I probably perpetuated the issue. We had gotten, so I always say this as a warning to people, we had gotten one of those cameras that you could put in your ear and you can look inside of your ear, and it had like one of those attachments that you can like get the wax out of there if your ear. Well, I'm like weirdo about keeping my ears clean with Q-tips and with all sorts of things, of just like making sure that there's not, because I've had a history of bad ear infections. Well, one of the times we put that in there, we were doing that, it scraped the inside of my ear. And so I think that was part of where everything started to essentially go south. So I just had an ear infection that kept getting worse. On September 1st, my wife woke up to me having a seizure at like 5 a.m. My guess is that's when the bacteria got through basically got into my brain. It had to have been, because that was probably what short-circuited my body, basically. So I believe that's what got through my blood-brain barrier. That was what got it in there. And I came to with 2 firefighters pulling me off of my bedroom floor. Like, I was out of it.
Wow.
And even when they picked me up, they're like, hey, and I sort of finally wake up and I'm like, what is going on? And I can't talk yet. And I remember just staring at my wife. I thought I was being arrested. I literally was like, I just see the red and blue lights because from my bedroom to my front door is like a straight shot. And I was like, what is going on? I'm like, why are you letting them take me? Like, I didn't do, your brain is running at 1,000,000 miles a minute. And fortunately, because my girls, I have 2 daughters, like, they were still asleep. And so my wife had to stay home. Fortunately, one of my really good friends is a medical doctor. Haven didn't know what to do, so she called friends of ours through our church. Ryan fortunately came, rode with me in the ambulance. I went to the hospital. They did a CT and an MRI. Everything was clear. They wanted to do a spinal tap. I didn't want to do that. I've had too many patients with bad experiences. So I was like, I don't want to do that. Basically refused it. I had been sick. I had not been eating well. I was super dehydrated. She gave me an IV bag, and I was like my body checked that now. I was like, hey, can I get another one before I leave? So she gave me a second IV before I left, and just went home, laid on the couch, was feeling awful, was not really getting much better. And so my wife was like, hey, I'm taking you to the hospital downtown. I was definitely being a giant pain in the ass because they were like, we can't let him in unless he gets a spinal tap. And I was like holding on for dear life. I'm like, this is the only thing I can hold on to, so I'm going to hold on to it.
Yeah.
And we're in the lobby and she's like, if you will just do this, they will let us go back and get a room. So I was like, fine. So I barely remember any of this. I'm like out of it. I feel terrible. And she told me later, she was like, I was so dehydrated, they had a hard time even getting enough fluid out in order to be able to test, apparently, which is terrible. Put me on an anti-seizure medication, which that is also a common migraine medication that you have to fail before you can get the actual migraine-specific medications. Could barely walk from my bed to my bathroom. I've never really had balance issues or anything. I was like, God, I feel drunk.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking blood from me every day. They tested my heart, my liver, full body scan, like everything that you can imagine. Can't find anything. They're like, do you have anything going on? I was like, well, I've had this really bad ear infection. They're like, well, that couldn't have anything to do with it. We'll come to find out that was very, very wrong. They basically were like, hey, we can't figure anything out. We feel like, on your testing, there's some bacteria that's in your blood. We're going to put you on an antibiotic. We're going to send you home. So finally get to go home, leave the hospital like 2 or 3 days later. I'm on an antibiotic. I start feeling a little bit better, but I just basically gradually kept getting more and more sick. I started having like tension in so it was on this side. It's kind of hard to see because my hair's come in, but it's like you can kind of see my scar that's going on here. So I have this like question mark scar that went around my ear. So they sent me home, and then basically, I mean, I am someone who's typically pretty active. I try to do something at least 4 or 5 days a week. I would do like one very minimal, nothing crazy workout. I would be sore for weeks. I was getting jaw pain and tension. I was getting migraines. I was like, what in the heck is going on? As somebody who takes care of people with migraines, it's like, this is the first time I've experienced them in my life. It's terrible. I can't sleep. The only time I can get a little bit of rest is I take one of those rice bags and heat it up in the microwave, and I lay on it, and that calms things down enough for me to be able to rest. And mind you, I can't really hear out of this ear. It's bothering me. All while I'm still running my clinic. I have an associate doc that's in here at the time, just like trying to keep things going. Because my wife at this time is a stay-at-home mom. Like it's me that is taking care of the family. So I just kept getting more and more sick. My wife obviously is concerned about me because like we would go anywhere with my girls and it's like, yeah, can we just get home? Can we just get back home? Like I didn't want to go do anything. So finally one day she's like, well, I'm going to take you to, an urgent care and we'll just see. And I'm like, maybe I have a sinus infection. Like sinus infections can sometimes happen with migraine. They get missed. I asked the lady, she's like, you don't have a sinus infection, but you have a pretty bad ear infection, because she looks at my ear. And she's like, I'm going to put you on a steroid and an antibiotic. And I'm like, whatever, that's fine. As soon as I start taking it, the next day, the side of my head swells up and my ear starts leaking. Like I'm basically having this like oily, weird stuff. I'm like having to sit there with like Kleenex in my ear because it's draining out. When I sleep at night, it's like draining out onto my pillow. It's all this like just the most crazy stuff that you can imagine. And then I always tell people, I'm like, there was like a series over a weekend of like all these fun things that happened, like building up to it basically. So this would have been like 4 or 5 days before Halloween. The Friday before, my oldest daughter, Remy, she at school was playing with friends. We didn't know this at the time. Come to find out, they were pretending they had AirPods and they were taking rocks and putting them in their ear. And one of the rocks got stuck in her ear.
Oh my!
We could not get it out, no
God.
matter what we tried. So we had to take her to urgent care. The lady had to like basically use these tools to get it out. So that's Friday. Saturday, my wife goes to a John Mayer concert with a friend of hers from California that's in town. She's like, are you going to be okay? I was like, I'll be fine. Put the girls to bed. I'm just laying on the couch. That Sunday, I was just not feeling great, so we stayed home. We did not go to church. We watched the Dallas Cowboys football game, and I had chili because it was the last thing I ate for like the next few days. That Monday, I wake up at about 5 a.m, trying to throw up, nothing coming out. Like I just feel violently ill, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've really run myself into the ground. I need to rest. I think I'm really sick. And so I basically lay in bed that whole day. My wife's like, hey, my parents came by to come check on you. I was like, I don't remember anything.
Whoa.
And I'm looking up a picture here so I can show you once everything happened, because this, man, let me tell you, was crazy. So I just slept that whole day, finally go to bed at sometime that afternoon, and Wake up the next morning, same thing. Now I'm breaking out in sweats. I'm still trying to throw up. I haven't eaten anything the last 2 days now. And I'm as lethargic and tired as I could be. And Tuesdays, both my girls go to school. So my oldest is in school. My youngest goes to a Mother's Day out program. So my wife gets up, takes Remy to school, comes home, takes Elle to school, comes home. She's like, what do we do? And I was like, you've got to take me to the hospital. Like, clearly something's wrong. So she calls my in-laws who live here, and they beat us to Baylor and Plano, which is where I'd gone originally from the ambulance ride to get the CT and the MRI. My wife's like, I'm taking you there because they already have records on you, which thank God that she did. That was absolutely the place I needed to go. So she has to bring me my clothes, bring me my shoes, basically almost carry me to the car because I could barely walk. I get in the car, and every time I'm told this story, it's very interesting to me because the one thing that sticks out at that moment was I remember I wanted the window down a little bit just for some fresh air, and I remember having the seat lean back, and the sky was like the most beautiful blue. Like, I just remember it was just one of these where you're just like taking everything in, and I remember I'm like, man, the sky, it was just like the most random thing to think of, but I was like, man, the sky's really beautiful today. And so we get to the hospital. My mother-in-law is basically carrying me in. She gets me one of those like little, because I'm dry heaving, but nothing is coming out.
Yeah.
And I sit down in the lobby, and I was like, hey, if they need me to walk back, you're going to have to ask them to get me a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I cannot walk.
Wow.
Like, my body cannot function anymore. So they give me a wheelchair. They wheel me to the bed, and the nurse looks at me and then looks at the bed. I'm like 6'4" and like 260, 270 pounds. So at the time I was like 240 because I hadn't been eating and I had lost a ton of weight because I was so sick. But I was like, she's still looking at me like, how in the hell am I going to get this dude? And she goes, can you get yourself in the bed? I was like, yeah, sure. Get myself up in the bed. And I just remember like, hey, I'm at the place where y'all figure this stuff out. I'm going to sleep. Y'all figure this thing out. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently I wasn't like fully asleep. They kept asking me like cognitive questions. Like, do you know what year it is? Do you know who the president was? My wife said I was getting frustrated because they wouldn't help me answer the questions. I'm like, come on, guys, help me out. And they're like, we're not allowed to help you answer these questions.
Oh my God.
And so they're trying to run tests. They cannot figure anything out. And my wife has to leave to go pick up my girls from school. And they decide, hey, we're going to send them back for a CT. When they send me back for my full body CT, they find this right here. Where is it at? Right here.
Wow.
In my brain. So it's not technically considered a tumor because of what it was, but there was bacteria. Here's my fun.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's insane.
They basically found that the bacteria had, so whenever I always sort of skip forward to whenever I did my 2-week follow-up with Dr. Denning. So the reason I say that we went to the right place at the right time was Dr. Denning is like one of the top 2 neurosurgeons in Dallas, and he was at that hospital doing a surgery on another person. We showed up, he got the call in for us, basically finished up that surgery, washed up, and went in to do mine that night at like 7, 8 o'clock, I guess. So I always sort of like jump people ahead because it's like I'm such a nerd. Whenever we went and did my 2-week follow-up, I wanted to ask him all the questions. I'm like, hey, when y'all do this, do you like move the muscle back? Do you cut through it? Like, what do you do in order to gain access to this? And he was like, oh, we cut through everything. Mm-hmm. So they shave my head down. They cut the skin open. They fold that forward. They cut through your muscle here. They fold that down. He said when they folded the muscle down, there was a hole that was near my ear. And he assumes that's where the bacteria had sat there. It had ate through my skull. And that's how it got into my brain.
The skull.
It ate through the skull. So the coolest part about this whole thing, well, there's 2 parts. You know, I didn't know this, like my pastor from my church came up to the hospital and prayed over me. We had so many people. My wife obviously is letting everyone know. And I was always appreciative of everyone who took care of her because I'm like, y'all, I was asleep. I didn't know anything, but she had the worst day of her life. She had to sign off paperwork that I might die. I might wake up different. Like, you don't know. Hey, we're about to do surgery on your husband's brain. We're going to try to save his life. You have to give us the okay in order to be able to do that. So my coaches, Dr. Sean Dill and Dr. Lacey Book, were actually having an event that weekend, and Lacey stepped out from the event and called Haven. And I remember when she told me, I just freaking broke down crying because I was like, it meant so much to me that the people around me were taking care of my people when I could not, which was hard. But I just, there's so many things about that situation. And I remember, I mean, we're on the Expect Miracles podcast. I had people at my church, oh my gosh, you're a miracle. It's a miracle. And I remember thinking, first of all, like, I just believe that the body has the amazing ability to heal itself as long as there's nothing that's interfering. Thank God I had all the things that I do. I had Dr. Sarah's Wink, who was taking care of me here. Like, those were probably the things I think that benefited me more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell people, I'm like, it wasn't like I went and I was like, I saw the light, and he was like, it's not your time. And he high-fived me on the forehead, and I flew back, and it was like, it wasn't like that. I remember feeling trapped in my body and sort of like in this weird place. And then I remember it being super cold.
Mm.
And that's obviously must have been when I was back for the surgery. But I just remember, like, it was the awareness of probably like a baby would have inside of the womb. Like, I felt like I was in sort of, but it was very weird. But I just never had this, like, I'm a miracle because of this. It was just like, I don't know. I went to sleep. I woke up. I felt the best I'd ever felt. Woke up and I was like, this is amazing. I can hear out of my ear. I have no pain in my head. None of this. Well, on our follow-up, I, of course, am the question guy, and his, like, nurse they're, like, running into my room to be like, we wanted to see how you're doing. What's going on? I was like, y'all, I'm doing great. And his nurse, who's been working with him for, like, 9 years, I go, have you ever seen anything like this before with a patient? And she goes, never.
Whoa.
We've never seen anything like this. So Dr. Denning, I asked him, have you ever seen anything like this? He goes, yeah, one other time.
Wow.
But almost similar situation. Guy had gone in to have a surgery done on his nose. They went too deep and caused a hole in the base of his skull. Bacteria got in. By the time they found it, it was too late. That guy did not make it.
Oh my God, man.
And I remember when he told me that, and I remember talking to my mom later that day, and I was like, like the heaviness of that moment hit a little bit stronger, because it was just like, we're like, yay, I'm still alive, everything is great. But it's like, no, it was like 50 on what could happen. But hopefully we haven't lost anybody by this point. But if someone's listening, I need you to understand the amazing awesomeness that is your body and how it can heal and what it can do when it is not limited. And as long as you remove any interference that is functioning inside of your body that is diminishing how your body should function. When he went in and cuts in and they're looking so that they could take this out, basically they're looking at the scan and they're looking at my brain to try to get this thing out. As soon as they created the opening, my body basically rejected it. He was like, it popped out. Like they still had to go in and clean up like a little bit, but the mass that's on that picture that you saw popped out. And immediately, not like a little bit later, immediately, my brain shrunk back down to normal size. Immediately, just like that. Yeah. He was like, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Because if you don't, they have to leave me open. They have to leave my head open. And they have to literally, like, there's a whole, because the pressure has to come down before they do that, because they get worried about, all these other things that can happen. So it's like, holy hell, you went in, you opened this up, which I always say, I wish they had video, because I would watch a surgery of my own brain. That would be crazy. It would trip me out, but it's like, I just remember, I'm like, that is so cool. And he was like, yeah, do that, close you out.
I'm just in awe of the fact that they can open up the skull like that, remove everything, and you can wake up feeling the best you ever felt. Like, Jesus, not only was that severe for you, your wife, that must have been the biggest roller coaster for your life or your wife, because you don't know what's going to happen when you wake up.
No, and I didn't even know what was going to happen. I didn't know any of that was even going to happen. Like, you got to remember, I basically pass out, and it's like, this is all I know is I'm super sick.
Right? Like, if you in the back of your mind, like, I got to get brain surgery and everything, that was probably one of the best gifts of that day too.
Well, and I'm sure my in-laws were helping her, and it's like, listen, this is what this is an obvious looking at that of like, hey, this is what we have to do. My wife, she's so sweet. She's like, I hope you're not upset. Like, he told me the surgery was going to be late, and that they kept me sedated all night, basically. They had a nurse that watched over me. They were coming in and checking stuff, but they just like, hey, if you want to go home, you can go home. And she was like, I just wanted to go be with the girls and go be with my parents. I'm like, sweetheart, you didn't know what was going to happen. And I just remember, this is why I give a shout out to Dr. Denning and his team and what they did. He was like, he went in and did it. He called her immediately after the surgery, told her everything went well. This is what was going on. But when I talked to him, it was like, here's the thing. My profession is very good at shitting all over the medical system.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, unfortunately, medical doctors get put into that. And just like every profession, there are good and bad within all of them. And I honestly think it's our system. It's this weird machine that we've built that is more to blame than anyone else. But it's like, there doesn't need to be this battle. What Dr. Denning does, I could not do.
Mm-hmm.
I could not do that.
Mm-hmm.
What I do, he could not do. And it is vastly different. But he literally saved my life. So there doesn't need to be this like, oh, it's like that has its place in time.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to be so, trust me, chiropractors will, I would never, oh my gosh. And it's like, no, there is a time and place for certain things in order to make sure, because if that doesn't happen, it's like, I'm just going to keep getting more and more sick and my body's not going to be able to function that way. And it's eventually going to, who knows where that's going to progress.
I don't think you have much time left.
No, I don't. And now I always say, I'm like, the beautiful thing is, and I trust me, I still have my days, but it's like it shifted a lot of things for me where it's just like people always joke in like movies where it's like you have the hero and he's like, I'm living on borrowed time because he's like he has a mission that he has to, and it's like I'm living on blessed time. I'm living on a gift that I potentially could have never had, that might not have ever been. There's a million different ways that could have gone, but it went this way. I mean, I was back in the clinic 3 weeks after having brain surgery, taking care of patients.
And the happiest dude in the world.
Very.
Yeah, man. That completely changes your entire outlook on life. And talk about being grateful just to wake up every day and having a new lease on life, man. Dude,
big time. Here
I am thinking we're just going to talk about upper cervical. And this turned into one of my favorite episodes of all time. I love hearing these stories, man. It's so incredible what the body can do, what you can go through mentally and come out the other side. The people that were involved in this story, expect miracles, baby. That's what it's all about.
I'm curious, because usually people share, and I'm sure you have a lot of them in your clinic. Is there a story that you always like to share that sticks out to you that you're like, or that maybe I'm asking something that everybody who listens to this podcast, like we hear this story all the time, but is there one for you that you're like, oh, this is my story that I'm always like, oh yeah, anytime I need a reminder of why I'm doing what I'm doing, like this is the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's my story. I for 5 years had dizziness, brain fog, anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, couldn't sleep through the night. I woke up in so much pain one day that I almost ended my life. Like I sat up in the bed and I was like, I physically cannot do this anymore. And I looked around for something I didn't want to live anymore. And I've never felt like that in my whole life. And then I just kind of broke down in tears for 5 minutes and then regathered myself and had a moment with God myself. And I said, God, if you bring anything into my life that can help me get my life back, I promise you I will do this and serve for the rest of my life. And it didn't happen right away, but 2 years later, he brought upper cervical care into my life, and it so much so changed my life that's why I do the work. So it's very cool to have patients have the same exact experiences and get their life back. But dude, when I'm having a bad day, I just kind of look to see how far I've come, because I almost shouldn't be here either with how bad I was and how I literally almost took my own life. And it's that's why the podcast is called Expect Miracles. And it's crazy how God and the higher power puts you on this path, the people in your life, and you stay the course, doors will open and your miracle will come. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's wow. I mean, first of all, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure you've had to process and talk about that a lot. And I'm sure you talk about that a lot on here, which is, it's interesting because I just a couple weeks ago, I had a wife and husband that I think it was like a 4 or 5 hour drive that they had. They're still in Texas, but they came to my clinic. They had set up a call with me. We had got on, we had talked, and, husband was in so much pain, basically the same words. And this is when he came to my clinic. That was one of the things. He's like, I can't keep living like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know you're trying not to say it, but I know, I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I understand.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that's super hard for me because, I mean, I've talked about this on my podcast, on so many podcasts, and I don't know who started this, but it's like, man, when you are healthy, you get all of the wishes in the world. You get all the goals and dreams and wants and all the things. When you have your health, you don't realize how much you take it for granted until it's gone, because when you lose it, you only have one wish.
Okay.
And that would be that you would be healthy again, that you could feel normal, that you would not be experiencing all of this pain and whatever it is that you're experiencing. And it's hard because I know this is part of what I wrestle with a lot of times is like, hey man, I got to do more and I got to show up because there's somebody out there that just like you did that day is praying that prayer and hoping and saying, there's got to be somebody that can help me with this. There's got to be someone that can help me do something. And listen, I get it. What we do seems so crazy and out there to people, but I'm telling you, the research is starting to show this. The many, many years now that we've had of doing this, believe me, when I first started doing upper cervical care, it was just, can I get enough people in order to keep enough money coming in to keep the rent paid and the doors open so that I can keep doing this while trying to find my path. I did not open up and I'm like, I didn't graduate school and go, I'm going to be the migraine guy.
Yeah.
In school, I learned like 3 test questions that I needed to make sure to differentiate between like a classic, a common, and we don't have a migraine class. Right? We barely even learn anything about it. So for me, it was like, I didn't wake up and I was like, oh, I was going to be that. I had my wife, and then fortunately, my first year, I had 2 migraine patients, both similar story, 1 male, 1 female, 15 plus years of migraine, tried everything, gone the typical route, did the over-the-counters, did all the meds that they have to fail first, the blood pressure medication, the anti-seizure medication, the SSRI or anxiety medication. Then we go on the triptans, then we go on the Botox. Like they had done all of the things. Nothing had worked for them. And so when they found me, cool, I'm just going to take you through the same process that I take everyone through. We're going to scan you. We're going to do some tests. We're going to get x-rays. If this is what I find, this is what we're going to do. And both of them got crazy results. And I would say, AJ is never going to see this, but one of my patients, AJ, he was also a coach at the time. He's so funny. He was just like, hey man, can I ask you a question? It was one of his visits. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, how's business going? And I was like, it's all right. And he was like, so it's not good. Okay, got it. And I was like, it's all right. And he goes, can I give you some advice? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, chiropractors suck at marketing. And I was like, okay, well, what do you mean? And he goes, you're very non-specific. You say that you can help everyone with everything, and that doesn't make sense to people. That doesn't connect. And so for them, when you help them with a very specific problem, they don't get it because you're like, oh, sure, it doesn't matter. And I was like, okay. And he goes, let me ask you a question. If there was one patient that you're like, these are the people I love working with, who would it be? And I was like, dude, my migraine patients love it in here. They're like, they get super excited. And he goes, then you should do that. And I remember like, sure, whatever. And at the time, it was hard to gain following. TikTok wasn't even really a thing. I think it might not have even existed, or if it did, it was Musical.ly at that point.
Yeah.
And this is when Facebook was still there and Instagram was still hard to grow. And I remember I would just post stuff all the time. And I was like, all right, I'm going to lean into this thing. And originally I wasn't the migraine doc. I was the migraine whisperer given to me by my patients. They were just like, hey, whenever they would send people in, they were like, this guy's the migraine whisperer. It's so funny because they're like, I don't even really know what he does. He does this scan with a thing, and then we look at your neck, and then this is what. And I remember it was like for 6 months, it was like, this is working. And then, as things ebb and flow, it was just like,
yeah.
Did I niche myself down too much? Did I screw this up? Like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And then fortunately, this crazy app came along that was called TikTok. And I'm sort of a guy that loves marketing and advertising. And I'm obsessed with how do you gain attention for what it is that you do. And I was like, first of all, I'm going to grab my username, because that's one of the things that you always want, is to have your name on certain things. So I just started posting content. And I remember the first patients I ever got. So I remember I started posting on TikTok in 2019. And was just like goofy videos of me and my daughter. I knew nothing about this app. I'm like, I don't know how you post on here. And I just started posting content. And I remember I worked super hard. And on January 1st of 2020, I hit 5,000 followers that morning. And I remember like, dude, like I had like 500 followers on my Instagram probably. And I was like, dude, this is huge. And, people were starting to reach out. And it was similar to like, I think, you and some of the other guys through UCC, it was like we were all benefiting each other at some point without realizing it. It was just like, hey, all these guys are talking about similar things. This is why these things are happening. But y'all would get the same things that I would. Do you know someone in this area? Do you know someone in this area? And my wife thought I was crazy because at night I'm at home and I'm just commenting on videos. Because my thing
hates that.
I don't do it as much anymore. Like I mostly try to outsource, and I will check in on certain things. But I would just sit there and she's like, what are you doing? Like, you spend so much time, and I'm like, all these people need my help. And I worked by the Gary Vee principle of like, you respond to every comment. Yeah. So if I got a comment on a video, I commented back to it.
Yeah.
So when I had a video that got 200,000 views, that thing had a couple hundred comments on it. I had to reply back to them.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And I remember, and anybody who remembers 2020 with all the craziness of COVID, my first traveling patients from TikTok was a family that flew their daughter down from Alaska, March of 2020.
Oh my God.
So this is like peak of we don't know what the heck is going on. And I was like, hey, y'all could get stuck here. And they're like, that's okay. We'll figure it out. And for me, it was like, ever since that day, I was like, I'm really onto something here. Like something's going to happen. And then there's always like these little moments. Like I remember I just kept posting, and unfortunately we were considered where we could stay open. And I remember they removed the stay-at-home order, and I had a record amount of new patients that week of people who would come in that had just been sitting and waiting, and they're like, I'm going to go see this dude. Which I always say, everything worked together at the perfect timing. Imagine everyone is stuck at home. They don't know what to do. They're all starting to download this new app, and they're looking for stuff on there, and you just pop up on their page. Yeah. Like, this is essentially what happened for me. And then I always joke, I got one of my buddies. So my buddy Scott, who made that thing that I showed you, I got him on TikTok. His first video ever on TikTok got like 1.2 million views. And I told him, he has like a laser engraving company. He had this like, bullet casing box that was like green, and it was them putting their logo on it. And I was like, dude, post this video, use this song, use these things, post it. And I remember he posted it and wasn't thinking about it. He looked at it later. He goes, dude, this thing has 20,000 views on it. This is nuts.
Yeah.
Dude, this thing has 100,000 views on it. And it just kept going and going. And I was like, I hadn't had a video do that, but I watched his video do that, and I was like, okay, I know there's something there. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen the same thing too. If you post a video, you never know.
Changed my life. I remember I was posting for a year though, and 200 views.
Yep.
600 views. I was happy if I got 1,000 views. And then,
dude, I remember.
And then I had a patient come in, and his girlfriend's with him, and she's like, I just want to let you know, he broke down in the kitchen one day crying because he couldn't live with this vertigo anymore. And now it's gone. Like, his life is completely back and saved. And he just needed an adjustment that day. So I put him on the toggle table. I recorded the video, and I put 2 years of vertigo resolved with upper cervical care. And then I posted it. And then I remember before I went to bed that night, it had like 5,000 views. I was like, damn, that's pretty damn cool. And I woke up the next day and it had like 30,000. And then over the course of like the next month or two, it jumped up to like 13 million views. And it just changed my entire life. Like, just people flying from all over the world. Like, Ben Stiller came in, like, just crazy. Crazy. Yeah, man. Like, people were finding me from everywhere. It was so crazy.
Dude, this is crazy.
Dude, you never know what is going to happen. Like, you just don't know.
And you don't know what video either. Like, what's funny is you're like, oh, let me figure out a way to replicate that. And it's like, we don't know if this one's going to do it. Like, you talk about that video. Like, I always remember, like, I had a couple that would do like 200,000, which was crazy, or like 700,000, which was crazy. But I always remember July 3rd of 2020 was the day for me that was like, oh, this was the game changer. There were a few things that all like fell into place for me. I had just hired someone. So fortunately she was a migraine sufferer. She actually was a patient at another clinic that I know, and was like, hey, we're going to be in Texas. She wanted to come in as a patient. And then I was like, dude, I need someone who wants to work in here. You had worked at another clinic. You're sort of trained up on some things. I could teach you our system. So she came in. And, I'm like, I would include her in videos. I was like, hey, you're going to be a part of this too. But I remember July 3rd, we're getting ready to go to Oklahoma to go see family for the 4th of July. I'm seeing patients that morning and then we're leaving. And I was like, I need to post a video today. Well, there was this shoulder shimmy trend.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but I'm here right now, right now. And so in my old office, it was all the front was all windows, and there was like a bar that went across my door, and I always set my phone there and I recorded videos there, which I loved because when people walked in, they're like, this is what we've seen from your videos all the time. Well, I recorded a video and it was just basically me walking. So when you walked in that room, it was a doorway that went down the hallway. So I came walking around the corner when the video started. And then I did this like shoulder shimmy. And I wrote like, when you've been struggling with migraines and then you find the migraine doc on TikTok. Matter of fact, let's just be super embarrassing and let's look it up because if you don't know this, you can show your page. Yeah. So this video has 3.6 million views. Here it is right here. Like I was telling you, it says POV when you've been searching for a migraine doctor and you finally download TikTok. This is all it is.
Unbelievable.
That's all it was.
That's right.
So yes. And I always tell people 7/3 of 2020.
Dude.
So my buddy Scott, who I had told you about, we were basically having a race just for fun to see who could get to 100,000 followers first. He was at like 80. He was going to beat me. I was at like 40 to 50,000, somewhere in there, which is huge still. That day, I went over 100K in one day. I gained over 60,000 followers in one day. So at the time, I had just dropped my "you can schedule an appointment with me" link on my bio. I had over 100 people submit requests.
Yeah, you can't keep up. It's like
I told Angela, who started working with me, I was just like, hey, I hope you're ready. I don't have notifications for TikTok on my phone anymore because they get crazy. Yeah. But at that time I did. I remember I hit upload. I go home. We're packing up all the stuff in the car, loading my daughter up, going to drive. And I'm looking at my phone and it's like, dude, my phone is going nuts. And it's 60,000 views. 240,000 views, and it's just going and going. I was like, this thing is crazy. First day we had like over 100 plus requests. The next day we had more rolling in. I told Angel, I was like, dude, I hope you're ready. Like, this literally just busted open the floodgates. Yeah. And so then it was like I just kept building it up. And now I always tell people, because I go through ebbs and flows where it's like, yep, I'm just hammering out content, and then I have times where I don't, because I have people that travel to come see me and they're like, we've been watching your videos for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And we just decided, like, if I don't know who our audience is, like, if this is chiropractors, like, I always tell people there's a team that I just recently hired. We worked with them previously. They handle all of my leads for me. And we have a check-in meeting basically every month to see how everything's going. And the first meeting that I had with them to check in, just under the head lady, I hadn't met with her when I did my onboarding, but she hopped in on this one, and we're looking at my numbers. And one of the things, like, there was 4 people that chose not to like move forward or whatever. And one of them was based on location, like, oh, hey, and she goes, well, when you're geo-targeting people for certain things, like, that's going to happen. They're going to be outside of that. And Sierra, who's my person who like gets basically assigned to me, who takes care of all my people, because the situation, we have people who travel, like, I had to educate her on how you have to talk to people. And, like, because we have to make sure we separate out, like, are you local? If you're not, are you going to travel? And I was like, well, and so Sierra was like, yeah, his situation's a little different. So I explained to her, what was going on. And she was like, this is crazy. Yeah. So every time, I told her I love it, because I told her, I was like, yeah, I have a little bit of a unique situation. She goes, no. She goes, you're a unicorn. Like, the amount of leads that we're driving, like, I have no money in ad spend at the moment, because I don't want to put any ad spend until we have an associate doc here. Because it's like, I don't, at the amount of people that we have reaching out who need help, it's insane. Yeah. And every time we check in, she's just like, this is crazy. Yeah. And she works in the clinic where she's at. And she was like, hey, I just want you to know, I was telling them the other day, because their 2 biggest expenses are overhead of like team and then ad spend. Mm-hmm. And she was like, you're not having to worry about that. And I'm like, yes, I will say it with this caveat, because this is what happens. And they want to be like you and they want to be like me. You don't know which video is going to do that. You don't know that they're going to do it every time. And you have to, like, when he talks about, like, oh, hey, like, I talk about these videos that hit, dude. I was posting 3 videos a day for years, 3 to 5 videos every day. And they're like, how do you do that? I would look for a trend. I would take my languaging about migraines and put it into a trend. I was just mixing it up. I don't know which one's going to stick. I was just throwing things. I'm like, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's do this. I think this is funny. And now because I've done that, it's built my following up to a certain place that allows it to give me credibility. It allows for people to go on and watch content that I put up. I mean, we're going to have to figure out the next new trend of like how we're creating videos, because I feel like everyone's kind of fallen under that of like, we put the thing in the back. And so it's like, we're going to have to like tweak this a little bit in order to keep it moving forward. But you have to realize, like, if you're a chiropractor who listens to this, you like this podcast, like you could be doing this. The thing is you're just not the reason. I'm going to say this and it's going to sound so arrogant and like I'm an a-hole. The reason that certain people win and certain people don't is just the person is willing to keep doing the same thing over and over. It is the discipline and consistency that has to be there in order to get those results that most people just won't. And it's like, well, this is how we're able to do that, is like, I'm just going to be willing to stick to this long enough. And for me, it's like, well, how do you do that? You know, I get so busy or I do this. And I'm like, I do it because there's a Kevin out there that's praying. That's like, I can't keep living like this anymore. And I got to show up. And if I what if I posted that video and he opened it and like, you never know. This is the, hey, let's go back to some fun things. My favorite BJ Palmerism is, you never know how far reaching something you may think say or do today will affect the lives of millions, which he said at the time. Now it's billions of people. You never know. You do not know. You think that what you do is so insignificant and it doesn't matter. It's like, it does. It can matter to somebody near you. It can matter to their kid. It can matter to their parent. It can matter to their spouse. Like, all that little stuff adds up. And so if you're not where you want to be, but this is where you're trying to go, don't just push that stuff off. And guess what? The first one's going to suck and the second one's going to suck. And you might be somebody who's actually really talented. So they might do okay, but they're still going to suck comparatively. And over time, you're going to get better. You're going to figure out your messaging and what you want to say. I take credit for functional nervous system testing. Everyone is welcome. This is my thing that because I had so many people, dude, that were like, oh, I've had a test of my nervous system done. And they would just swipe away and erase. And I'm like, no. Like, you don't understand. You've never had a test like this done. So I had to come up with my own languaging to speak about what it is that we do. And then now I see it everywhere and I'm like, heck yeah, that's cool. And not everyone knows it, but as someone who's like, hey man, just a little bit of like, I want to be able to, it's like, and everyone can have it. I'm here so that we can be able to make greater impact for other people. But it's one of those things where it's like, dude, it just takes the consistency of, I'm going to do this because everyone says that they want to, but you just don't see people doing it. Of course. And it's the thing that makes the biggest difference. Like, have you been doing anything with ChatGPT?
Yeah. Captions, dude, I almost every post now.
So have you been teaching ChatGPT about you?
Yeah. So it kind of tweaks it every time I put it in. It gets a little sharper with me. It's so cool. Yeah.
So you should give it every single one of your podcasts, because what it can do is when you put these up, it will listen to them and it will pull. So anytime I do a podcast with someone and they send me the link, I take it and I go, I have a folder inside of my ChatGPT that's called Chatty G. Chatty G and I are good friends. And so Chatty G, hey, this is what you're doing. You're going to learn everything about me. You're going to learn about how I speak, my languaging, what I talk about when it comes to migraine, my approaches.
Wow.
I gave it my book. I give it all these things. And so what happens is you have to realize ChatGPT is going to take over search at some point. It's already starting to move that way.
Yeah.
I do it now. Yeah. I just go to my Ask ChatGPT on my phone and I'm like, hey, can you can do the one that talks to you. You can do the one where you type it in. But if it doesn't know about you, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So the more it knows about you, the better that's going to be for you in the future. So this is why I have stuff that goes out all the time to make sure that that is the case, because, hey, we've got to make sure that over time.
You put into the search bar, not only is that helping you teach your language, it's also, if people search you, that has a whole search engine on you from what you're uploading to it.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So you have to tell it like, hey, and you have to make sure that you have it set up to where it'll put it in its memory. Because the reason I started doing this was it was something that was recommended to us. And what happened over time was, so whenever we started doing this, it was like, okay, yeah, we should do this. And, you know, I'm like, well, I got a lot of videos online. Like, I just assumed because I had stuff, but like I'm a video person. I don't have a lot of written content.
Mhm.
I didn't have a blog at the time.
Mhm.
Now I have a Substack that I put 5 posts out a week on Substack every single day. The reason I did that was I went on before I had an account set up. I downloaded it on my phone and I said, hey, if I was struggling with migraines, who would I go to? And it did not list me. I was like, okay, I got to work on this. And I said, well, what about Dr. Brandon Brown? And it goes, you mean this guy, Dr. Brandon Brown, the MD? So there's a Dr. Brandon Brown who's a medical doctor who has a Substack that has 0 posts on it. So he had no posts on it, and ChatGPT pulled from that for information and knowledge. So then I was like, okay, I have
I'm
to
gonna get a
grab this.
that today.
Dude, just go on,
Yeah.
teach it, have it talk to you. I've now linked mine to my website. So then it's like, those are basically seen as blog posts. I use that as content every single day. So I post it on Facebook. Like, it goes everywhere. And do some people read it? No,
And
but it's mostly,
paragraphs.
they're decent. Like, it's like it's like a 5-minute read most of the time. Like it's a, hey, here's the breakdown, here's the information, and then it does like a call to action at the end that's like, hey, if you want to set something up. So it's, for me, it's like I have stuff everywhere,
I'm doing this.
and you can teach it. So here's the cool thing though, because I'm going to take it even another step on top of that. So now people will they'll give you prompts that you can give to ChatGPT of like, hey, based on this, or based on like, what would you recommend for me, or what would you say? And so I asked, I forget what it was, but it was like, hey, now that you have access to all the conversations that we've had, what are my top 5 blind spots? Like, where's the spots that I'm not seeing where the potential is? Because anytime I create an offer or an idea or something that I'm doing, I'm like, hey, if I wanted to do this, because make sure you get as specific as possible, because chat gives you the response to what you give it. So if you give it this is what I need from you, make it hyper specific, it will respond in the way that you want. If it doesn't, we just didn't give a good question, because I've been there too. I had been feeding it information, and we've been talking about stuff, and it's like, hey, I'm working on this. Dude, I had it build out the coding for an app for me. So I have not put it in yet, but I have the base coding for an app that I want to do through migraine stuff, that it was like, hey, can you make this? And it goes, yeah, I could do that. And it gave me basically the underwriting coding that you would use. And I was like, okay.
So cool.
Like, the amount of stuff that it can do is crazy. But for me, I'm trying to, in the migraine world, make a big impact. I'm trying to be a person that leaves a lasting impression of, like, you know, and I'm going to have to take some strays and some arrows being out in front. But I think that's obvious in my stuff. So when I asked that, it was like, here are my top 5 blind spots from my honest, strategy-driven perspective. Remember, I talked about strategy earlier. My chat has figured me out. It's like, this is how you like to function, so this is how it feeds me information. It gave me 5 things. So number 1, you're the last stop for most patients, but it doesn't have to be that way. You've said it yourself. Most people find you after they've tried everything else and feel hopeless. And then it says blind spot. You haven't fully built a top of funnel system to catch these people sooner. Right now, your content is incredible when someone finds you, but you're missing the lead generating engine that brings in people earlier in their journey. Fix. Put on a free masterclass, which is going to be something I'm going to have stuff that's rolling out on my YouTube channel, but you have more ways for people to be able to find you. And I'm like, well, that's a no-brainer. And everyone's like, well, duh, I could do that. I'm like, sure, that's easy. It goes, number 2, you're sitting on an elite level app idea, but you haven't packaged the offer around it yet. This is the app that we're talking about. It was like, this is what you should do for your app. Number 3, you underestimate how much people want more of you. Your personality, your voice, your ability to blend science and humor and raw honesty, that's your superpower. You haven't leaned into a video-based connection as much as you do. Short form, yes, but long form, they want you. They want your coaching, your breakdowns, your rants, your frameworks, your behind the scenes. So essentially launch like a show that they can watch to be able to get more of that. You're still doing too much one-on-one when you could be leveraging an offer that's like more of a group thing. So I'm working on that too, of like, hey, a few times a year, you just get a big group of people together. This is how you work with them. Obviously, they can't necessarily be getting specifically care, but they might not be ready for that yet. So we can figure out a way that's like, well, let's start here. But the 5th one for me was the one that I was like, oh, because a lot of times you're like, it's artificial intelligence. Like, how much does it get you? And it was like, this was like I understand you even more than you realize, because we've never talked about this. You haven't positioned yourself as the thought leader in nervous system based migraine care yet. You have the credentials, the content, the results, and the voice And in this niche, that's rare. Your blind spot is you're still playing like a top tier clinician, but the world is ready to see you as a category creator. Give interviews, guest on podcasts, pitch Substacks to other like larger health blogs to be able to get your blog on their blogs, like leveraging basically other audiences. Make functional nervous system testing a household term and remind everyone you coined it. And then it was like a bonus one. It was like, you haven't turned your personal story into like your brand's origin story and like make it essentially the backbone of all the stories that you tell. So for me, it's like, that is an artificial intelligence, depending on how people feel about it. It's like, it's coming around whether people like it or not.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you are ready and willing to be able to have those conversations and know that stuff, because otherwise it's going to leave you in the dark. And like, that's like what I would say, like very upper level stuff. And I think most of the time it's like, oh man, you want to keep all your cards close to your, like, I don't want to share anything, or I don't want to do any of this. I sort of go by the Michael Jordan principle of like, I'll share everything with you. You can have everything that I have access to, because I don't think that you're going to be willing to do it consistently enough in order for that to become a thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can give that to people, but for how long are they going to do it? And if someone does do it, then that's great. As we know with what we've done through UCC, it has a greater impact together. It starts to have carryover. People go, well, people didn't know about me, but they found me because of you. Or people didn't know about you, but they found you because of me. They were like, hey, I found you, saw that there was this office over here. This is where I'm going. I have comments on my videos all the time. Going to see someone for the UCC website, like super excited, I'm nervous, all this stuff. I'm like, hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what we want, is to actually make an impact. Like, I think that's what our profession was all about, and we've very much gotten away from that. And it's, can I get fame and clout online for making wacky ass crack videos that suck and that do nothing to better the profession? Or can I show how somebody had vertigo for 2 years and I literally changed their life with this simple looking thing that people are going to go, that's it? And it's like, yep, that's it. And it doesn't have to be crazy, and it doesn't have to be any of this goofy stuff that you see online, and it can be safe and effective, and you're not going to be in any danger of somebody taking care of you, and they're going to literally be able to change your life.
Right.
Like, that's my chat. What you should do, Kevin's homework is you should ask ChatGPT, and maybe yours is just Expect Miracles, because you have the Expect Miracles podcast. And if you want it to be more specific, like, I asked ChatGPT to come up with a tagline for me. We're very much in a tagline world. Make America great again, make America healthy again. So mine is fix your neck, fix your life. That's at the end of every single one of my Substacks. It's just like, hey, and as I always say, fix your neck, fix your life.
Love it, man. Brandon, we are going to wrap this up today. I love this episode, man. Might even break it up into 2 parts, one with your story and then one right after it. We'll see kind of how it goes. But dude, unreal. I loved your story. I loved all your energy, and would love to have you back on anytime, brother.
Dude, I appreciate it. Anytime you need something, somebody bails out, or you need me, let me know. I would love to do it.
Perfect. And where can people find you online, social media, and schedule an appointment with you?
Yeah, so if you go on any of my social media, Instagram, TikTok, obviously those are the main ones. Just at the Migraine Doc is all my handles, and in my link tree has all the stuff that I would recommend. You can go to thespecificrichardson.com. There's a schedule link that you can do there. Or like I said, you can go to my link tree. You can find it on there. You can find the UCC link to that website as well, if you guys are looking for that. I try to make it easy to be able to find all those things. It's pretty easy. If you go on my page, I'm going to have a link there. And if you need something, you can DM, and then one of my team members or me will get back to you, and we'll get you, we'll help with whatever we can.
Beautiful, man. Brandon, thank you so much for having on, and I would love to have you back on anytime, brother.
I appreciate you, man.
All right.